welcome back to another episode of the Whiskey Diaries. My name is Martin Lang, we're here at Death in Texas, and today we're going to be talking about Ryder Steers. In this particular case, the special limited release Japanese cask finish. Now, a little bit of history. This is going to be brief because it's it's one of the youngest distilleries, new distilleries in Ireland, started in 1999 by a family by the name Walsh. They created a company that is called Walsh Whiskey, which now they have Ryder Steers and Irishman. Now, basically what they try to do, and for the information that I gathered around, is they're trying to replicate what Irish whiskey used to be before the Second World War. What happened with Irish whiskey back in the days, before the Depression and the Second World War and all of that stuff, Irish whiskey was predominantly done as a single pot style whiskey, basically the equivalent of a single malt. So basically it's just one single type of grain that goes in there, were made by pot still in a single distillery. Now later on, after the Second World War, because of lack of demand and the world crisis and all this sort of stuff, eventually that sort of whiskey in Ireland started to get forgotten, and more of the triple distilled using grain spirit and using basically like column distillation and all that stuff starting to be more like the norm. So nowadays a lot of the Irish whiskies, they do have a lot of grain spirit into the whiskies. If you don't know what grain whiskey is, it's basically a whiskey that is made out of in a column distillation style. Column distillation produces a type of alcohol that goes all the way to like 96%. So imagine like basically what vodka is made of. Most vodkas are done in this way. Column distillation, what it helps a lot is with the because it's continuous, you can make a lot more whiskey a lot faster, and then a lot of like a more lighter style of whiskey compared to a pot still. A pot still usually comes around 78 to 80 ABV. Column still goes all the way to 96, so it's basically all the flavor strips away. So nowadays there's a renaissance of trying to bring back to what Irish whiskey used to be, which is delicious. A single pot Irish whiskey and single malt Irish whiskey, they are absolutely stunning. So Ryder Steers in itself, what they're trying to do, and they accomplish really well, the delicious whiskies, is basically a marriage between a single pot Irish whiskey and a single malt Irish whiskey between them. So it doesn't have any sort of grain spirit in the whiskey. Now, this particular type limited is aged in Japanese Misonara. Now, aging in Japanese Misonara is very fickle and very, very hard to do. And it's very expensive at the same time. Now, we have talked in previous videos about the wood itself and why Misonara is so hard, but just a quick recap, it's basically the oak itself doesn't go straight as American oak. Also, it's slightly more porous as well than American oak, and it tends to leak a lot more than other type of oak as well. So it's hard to maintain. If you don't age it properly and you don't keep monitoring it, it can give you too much flavor or too little flavor. So some people say that you have to wait 15 years to get some flavor out of them. Some other people say that 2 years is too much. So it's just a little bit of misinformation out there. The other thing as well is that Misonara oak is extremely protected by the Japanese government. So it's like you can't cut any trees, and it just has to be, everything has to be, it's basically extremely hard to get. So that means that it's really expensive. But if you actually nail it, Misonara casks actually add a very, very complex flavor to the whiskey itself, ranging from green tea to coconut to all sorts of crazy flavors are actually delicious. Hence, well, like for instance, one of the most expensive whiskeys in the world ever sold, it was the Misonara cask from Yamazaki, 25-year-old. That goes for something crazy like $500,000 or something like that. Regardless of that, it's the first limited release that I get to try from Ryder Steers, so it's actually quite interesting. It doesn't say how long they age it on, and let me see. Nope. So basically, but it just says the bottle number. This is bottle 559 out of 642, and it's 55% ABV, which is lovely. So as we always do with a whiskey that is always over 50% ABV, I like to add a little bit of drops of water to the whiskey because you tend to open and find a lot more flavors once you add to the whiskey. So in this case, I got a little dropper here. But what we usually do is we actually just taste the whiskey first, give it a scale from 1 to 10 just to feel how strong it is, and then after that we add a few drops of water following that number. But you always have to try it first. Oh wow, it's a very interesting aroma. It's very light, and you can definitely, as I said, you can definitely smell coconut on this one. That's awesome. That's a great light whiskey, lots of light flavor. It doesn't have like that maple that you usually get from Irish whiskey. This is a lot lighter, kind of like a greener style of whiskey. And then I will say that probably about 5 drops of water will do. 2, 3, 4, 5. There you go. And then that will definitely open up the whiskey. Yeah. Now you start getting under like peach and a lot of more lighter fruits. Wow, yeah, that's a great whiskey. Very different. Has a lot of. It's hard to explain, to be honest. I haven't had something that similar before. It's just really grassy, but at the same time fruity, and like it's a different type of whiskey. I will let you decide if you ever get your hands on one of them on what flavors you got, because I don't think I've tried something similar to this before. Anyway, that's about it for our limited edition for Ryder Steers. Hopefully you enjoy the review, and we'll see you next time. Slàinte ba.